The energy and spirit of the Nashville region fuel a diverse economy and a vibrant community. At the center of this spirit is the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is a catalyst for business development and innovation, providing area businesses with opportunities to connect, take leadership roles, and engage in the future of the Nashville region. If you're not a member, call 615-743-3000 today to learn more about the benefits of being part of Middle Tennessee's largest business federation.
Thank you for joining us for the Nashville Area Chamber's online webcast, Expert Edge. These regular video webcasts feature local industry experts discussing how businesses can take advantage of opportunities in the current economic climate. Don't miss the chance to hear innovative and cost-effective ideas on how to grow your business in a challenging time. Bookmark NashvilleChamber.tv and don't forget to spread the word to your friends.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Bert Matthews, President of the Matthews Company and Vice Chairman of the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. We're excited today to have Paula Lovell of Lovell Communications moderating today's panel discussion. Paula is a member of the Chamber's Business Conditions Council, and we are grateful for their leadership in the formation of Expert Edge.
Thank you, Bert. I am delighted to be part of this new Chamber initiative and to have the privilege of introducing our wonderful panel today. We have joining us Steve Horton, who is an account executive with Catcher, Vaughn and Bailey Public Relations, Hannah Paramore, CEO of Paramore Red Online Marketing, and Peter Wolfolk, CEO of Communication Strategies. Thank you all very much for being here. Before we get started, I especially want to thank Stage Posts for their time and their efforts in making this possible in this partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. So let's jump right in and get started with our conversation today. We're going to talk about marketing, and especially marketing maybe in tough times. And so I want to ask some of the panel members, in tough times, do you cut back on your marketing? And I'd like to start with you, Steve, and see what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think in pre-Enron and pre-WorldCom, that was the common theme that you saw. That was the first level of cutbacks. You got to keep the lawyers and the accountants, but you'll need to cut the marketing dollars. That's not true anymore. And I think that really changed when those two occurrences happened. The need for transparency and the need for just ethical guidelines really were set then and carried through to today.
Mm-hmm. So. But Hannah, it's expensive sometimes to do marketing. Should you cut back? Or cut down?
Well, certainly, I think you have to change. You might have to change what you're doing and optimize to the most efficient channels. But truly, I mean, just because the economy is bad doesn't mean that you need to stop acquiring customers. And the only way that you will be able to acquire new customers and probably keep your own customers is if you continue to market. So you have to be more efficient and maybe more thoughtful in the way that you market your business, but you shouldn't stop. It should never be the first thing to go.
So along the lines of thoughtful, I'm wondering if what the first thing you should use your marketing dollars for? Hannah?
Well, in my opinion, and of course my company is an interactive marketing agency, I believe that building a database of both your current clients and potential customers, if you don't already have it, you're behind, but if you do have it, it's the most valuable corporate asset you have. Database marketing using email, and there are other ways to do that, also direct mail also, but things that will help you actually track user behavior and learn about your customers is the most important, most valuable information you can have.
Steve, any thoughts on early marketing dollars, what you spend those first dollars on?
I think in any instance, whether it's advertising, PR, or marketing, your first dollars have to be spent on research, good, thorough research, and that will help you to narrow where you spend your dollars in the future.
Peter, have you worked on any research projects for your clients? Can you give us an example of the kind of research you can do with those dollars?
Well, let me say this: not so much research, and I think that is a good thing to do, but also add value to what it is that you're providing to your customers. and I'm also a big proponent of customer service, because one of the things that you need to do, obviously, is keep the customers you have.
That's right.
So good, solid customer service, I think, it should be a top priority. Research supplements that sort of activity.
And then once you do the research, how do you prioritize, and what might you learn? Any one of you who might want to talk about what might you learn through that research that helps you organize those dollars?
Well, I can speak to that for a minute. One of the things that we're doing right now, headed into this economy as a young company, we've been in business almost 7 years, is really looking at our client base and really assessing who in our client base we anticipate having a hard time in the economy. You have to focus on the clients who are going to be able to weather the storm well and who will continue to need our services. So that's the first thing we look at is in any kind of research is what is that potential client's exposure to the economy, and then how can we help them, and then what do they expect from our product and what do they need from a company like us. Because at the end of the day, if you're not serving the client's needs, then you're going to be out of business. So you have to clearly learn from research what your client needs to be successful, and then orient your products around that.
Steve, or any of you, have you noticed, I wonder if there have been any changes in terms of what people are using marketing for, and maybe use this opportunity for us to define what we mean by marketing. What's falling under this marketing umbrella we're talking about this morning? Question.
I think there has been a shift in marketing a little bit from necessarily the packaging to the people and the relationships. People want to have an experience when they interact with your product. Starbucks is a good example. You don't go buy $5 cups of coffee for the coffee bean that costs pennies on the dollar. So you want the experience and that's what people are yearning for, and that's why social media has been such a big impact on marketing, because they can have those experiences with other consumers of that product. So,
I would agree with that too. I mean, I think that there's a real drive toward authenticity, not only in experience but in marketing. I think that the days of overpromising and and just hype are completely over in marketing. If you can look at that and relate it to the green movement, sustainable tourism, and travel tourism is one of our biggest segments of clients, and the move away from the manufactured experience into an authentic experience is really important. It's important to the people who are under 35 years old and who are the ones who are most active in social media. And I think that has to transcend to marketing also.
And I want to drill down to social media and talk a lot about that today, but I also want to continue to define marketing. Peter, what is marketing? Is it advertising? Is it public relations? Is it blogging? Is it talking to your customer? What defines it?
It's a combination of those things, and one of the things that we've begun to do at our firm is to help people fully understand what the organization is all about. Sometimes an organization might be clearly identified for one particular activity or specialty, but then if you look at the resources that they have, they can provide much more to a community, to their clients and so forth. So it's an opportunity to let people know more about or advise the client to better use the resources that they have. Sometimes resources are thought of as only have a singular use. But if you expand your thinking about it, they have multiple uses that they can serve clients better and in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm. So the traditional, definitions of marketing include product, price, place, positioning, those things, and those are still, obvious staples. But sales support is another one. You can't sell anything unless you know how to take the product to market, unless you have people in your organization who understand sales support. And that's, I don't think that's just internal. I think that extends to customer service.
Right.
And speaking of customer service, a great example of how your customer service can almost be now in the social media age, marketing for you is Comcast Cares is a good example that really kind of drives that home. They have someone out there proactively addressing their customers' customer service needs. They search the social media atmosphere and they find these issues with their product, and they proactively go and touch them, and that has been great for their brand and for their marketing efforts.
And so one of the things I wonder about is, traditionally advertising can be rather expensive, although if it's well targeted, it's inexpensive because you're hitting your audience with a rifle and hopefully not a shotgun. At any time when you're really trying to maximize your marketing dollars, do you change from, let's say you're a traditional advertiser on television, should you be looking at other avenues now?
With marketing advertising, there is no one size fits all, and I think most companies, they should realize that, and some things will work for them, some things won't, and that's when you bring in people like these people at this table here to help them make that decision.
Right, good answer. Let's talk about social media. Let's talk about Web 2.0. Let's define what that is. Let's have I'm still learning. I think a lot of us are still learning. Hannah, let's start with you because that's really in your sweet spot.
Well, social media, it is important and it's still emerging, and that's probably the most important things to know about social media, or that it is brand new. We don't know what it's going to do yet for established brands, and that it's not inherently a marketing platform. It is really a platform for people to connect with each other. So trying to market on the social networks like MySpace, Facebook, and YouTube, and LinkedIn, it can be really good for some brands, but it's important to understand what people are there for. And really people are there to connect with other people who share similar interests to them. They are not there and are not usually open to advertising. So you have to be really careful with how you approach those, because you probably remember the companies in the last few years that have tried to do fake sort of viral social types of campaigns, and they always get found out. It always comes out that it was something that they set up, that it wasn't truly authentic, it wasn't truly users and customers who were blogging about them, or whatever the activity was. So you got to understand that that's not what the platform is about. The platform's not about advertising. But if you want to get into it, here's what I would say. Number one, get somebody who's young in your office to explain it to you.
That's the truth.
Because if you're over about 35 years old, you don't understand it. So get somebody young to explain it to you. And number two, become a user yourself. Set up a LinkedIn account. Start to connect with people on LinkedIn, which will probably be the best business-to-business social platform. They are rolling out some advertising platforms on LinkedIn. They're brand new, so there's no research about them. Set up a Facebook account and get some friends on Facebook. I mean, you'd be surprised how many friends you have. If you're lonely, go get a Facebook account. MySpace is probably less important than Facebook and LinkedIn right now. I mean, MySpace is enormous, but its technology platform is not as good as Facebook's, and it's starting to have some problems and some cracks. But set up your own accounts there and learn how to use it, learn how to connect, because if you don't understand how people are using it and why they're there, you have no hope of connecting with them as an advertiser correctly. Go to YouTube, set up a YouTube account, and start to view videos and add favorite videos to your accounts. Set up a Twitter account. I know Twitter is kind of hip. Mm-hmm. It's like short form blogging. It's what I'm doing right now. I'm getting ready to be on a live webcast, and I did this last night. I Twittered last night. I'm getting ready to be on a live webcast, and immediately got a hit from a guy in Alabama who I knew when I was a kid, who said, "What time is it going to be on?" So if Michael's watching, hello there. So, and one of the ways Twitter uses this is very similar to what you said about Comcast Cares. One of the things that's going on with Twitter right now, with Southwest Airlines is using it really well. Twitter's just a place where people just say, "This is what I'm doing," and you can follow people all through their day, and by following them on their Twitter account. Southwest has people dedicated to watching what's going on in Twitter, and then they will, if something negative is posted on Twitter, they immediately connect with that person and say, "What can I do to help you? I'm sorry you had a bad experience." And so that's a great way to use social media. MySpace is rolling out My Ads, which is a new advertising platform on MySpace, which is something that we're watching very carefully. But unless you're a user, you won't understand it. So start to use it. Get your kids to explain it to you.
Can I add to that just a little bit, because I certainly agree with you having a younger person on staff. That's exactly what we did. But having people learn what experiences that they can have with the product or service, not necessarily advertising it, but what experiences do I really get from this organization, this product or this service? how it benefits me, how it benefits the community. And I think there's a larger explanation for those things.
Well, I wonder sometimes, really, and would like you all to tell me, what's the advantage of getting involved in all this social media, or why don't we just do a survey and find out what the customers are doing? That's the old-fashioned way. Steve, you got any thoughts on why one is better than the other?
Well, I don't think that one is better than the other. I think traditional marketing has its place, and I think social media has its place. But I think the two can work together, and I definitely think that your brand needs to be reinforced across every platform. It's very easy to get into Facebook, where it's kind of a templated space, and it's very easy to get into some of these other places and lose your brand in there. So that you want to make sure you keep a tight hold on that. But I definitely think that by using the outlets like Twitter, by using things like that, you can drive people through links to the places where you live and where your brand is reinforced. And that is one way for them to be able to proactively follow you there, not you're pushing stuff and down their throat. So.
But I think one of the biggest differences, though, in what you would learn from people if you follow what they're saying about your company on in the social networks, but the difference between that and a survey is it's less formal, and so it may be more real. If you put somebody into a survey, they're there for a reason. If they have decided that they will take the survey, they probably either really love you or they really hate you.
Right.
They've got something to say one way or the other, but there's some passion behind it. And you might get more of what people just on the street really think about your product and service if you find them talking about you on social network. Because again, that's not a platform for them to stand on to talk to you. They're just telling you they're just talking about how they feel. So I think that's a big difference there. But blogging is another thing that I think we were going to talk about that is very different from the social platforms. And there's only one thing I want to say about blogging, really. I think it's really important, the ability for people to comment on blogs about your product or service, or like take TripAdvisor, for instance, where people go in, it's an enormous site. They get 25 million unique users a month. So people are commenting on hotels and bars and restaurants and attractions and travel tourism, obviously. The important thing to remember about that is that people will say negative things about you, but you have to allow that if you're going to delve into social media. You have to allow the negative stuff to be on the boards. If you take it down, you will lose your credibility. You'll have no street cred at all, and then your boards will die. Right. People will stop commenting if they know that you're taking down negative stuff. Now, I do think that it's okay to take down inappropriate stuff. Things that are hateful or racist or, bad language, that kind of thing. You can moderate that. But what happens usually is when somebody posts a negative comment, the fans of that organization or product will come back and, in droves and say, I had a great experience there.
Right. I think that's a really important point. Yeah. Well, I think also people who make the decision on how to spend the money are wondering about the return on the investment of having a bunch of people twittering and blogging and mice facing and so on. I always get that wrong, Facebooking. And I wondered, do we know anything about the return on the investment? I mean, really, there is a lot of lost productivity when you've got a bank of young people over there involved in social media. Steve?
I will say this. It's easier to judge, if we're talking about in the social media realm, it's easier to judge than it was even traditionally. I come from a PR background, and it's always been a definite problem, I guess, proving our worth in numbers to numbers. How are you affecting the bottom line type thing? There, in social media, you actually have measurable numbers. There are tools out there where you can measure how you're moving the needle, what kind of positive feedback you're getting on your blog, on your other touch points that you have. So I would say the analytics behind social media actually make it easier to show your worth.
Although it's completely different from traditional media, and I think that's one of the things that marketers are struggling with, is that you're not counting gross ratings points. You're not counting reach so much. The measurement is different.
Right.
So it's, if you have 100 people faithfully following your blog, or if you have 1,000 people who have signed up to be friends of your organization on one of these social platforms, and those people are probably very interested in you. So what's the value of 1,000 really, really bought-in people compared to a list, maybe a direct mail list of 100,000 people, 90,000 of them which may not know or care anything about you? So the measurement is different, and And I know that marketers are really struggling with how to equate one to the other.
Well, one of the things I think is very, very important is that you need to be able to tie this back to the strategic plan of the organization, because the leadership, they've developed a strategic plan, so how do these activities support those particular elements in that plan? And that can be done. So it's the sooner you can do that, the happier they are, and the less heat that you will get for trying to understand, well, what are you guys doing back there?
Oh, that's right. It's always got to go back to the return and the money, the revenue. How is anything that you're doing in marketing going to come back to the revenues, really? Can we shift just a little bit and talk about search engine optimization? I think that that also is very trackable. And let's see, let me start with you, Steve.
Sure. One thing we're doing for search engine optimization that it's very easy to do is make sure your releases and make sure your content that you put out is easy to search. It's searchable. You have Google AdWords. It's simple enough to go online now and find out what keywords you need to use in order for that to get picked up in as many places as possible. The availability of content is also a big help. Having social media newsrooms where people can come and find your content. Reporters can come, in a PR environment at least, can come and download your videos, download your executive quotes and that kind of thing. Just makes it easier on them. It increases your chances of getting placement. But from search engine optimization standpoint, at least go into Google AdWords, find out what your keywords are for your audience, for your client, and use those over and over so that you rank high in search results.
The thing that's really important to know too about SEO and just search engine marketing in general is that the rules change all the time. The algorithms that the search engines use to rank content and even to rank your ads, if you're buying ads there, they change all the time, and they will not tell you what they are. So it's a big guessing game. And that it's also a continual investment. In fact, a really good SEO, organic SEO campaign or program can cost more than a paid search campaign if you have a very large website, because the results are not guaranteed. The search engines are doing their job by ranking content the highest that is the most useful to the most people. That's the main measure, is how much traffic do those pages get and how many links do those pages have, from outside external links into those pages. Because Google's stated objective is to organize the world. And the way they look at the value of a page is, number of hits to it, number of links to it, and reputation of that site. So you can't trick Google for long into getting your pages to the top of the search result, because they're not about you tricking them. They're about providing the most valuable information to the most people. So they're doing their jobs by getting you off the front page if your content's not valuable. So the main three things to remember are about search engine optimization is that your site has to be useful, unique, and updated. It's the 3 U's of website development and management. It has to be useful, unique, and updated. And if it's not, you don't deserve to rank well in the search engines.
That's good advice. Peter, you got anything to add?
Well, I think that my basic thing would be get a young person who understands that on their staff. That's what we have done, and that they're charged with the same things that Hannah's just mentioned here.
Exactly. I wonder if we could maybe talk a little bit about grassroots. Now, a lot of that is grassroots, but outside of online, back to basics, Steve, and this is kind of our sweet spot in public relations. Is grassroots marketing something that can be applied to small business as well as big business? Is it really just a small business play? What are your thoughts on good grassroots marketing?
No, I think absolutely can be applied in both. It helps with our budgeting and whatnot to, on a small level, be able to use it. But there's been plenty of examples of large companies having very successful grassroots. Dell is one of them. They had the Dell Hell experience several years ago, and now they have IdeaStorm, which is a grassroots give us your feedback kind of social media grassroots campaign, and it's been very successful for them. JetBlue went through something similar after their debacle with the plane on the runway. And their CEO came back, and it's been very successful for them as well. So there are definite places for all of us to be able to play in that arena. And what it does really is levels the playing field between the giants and the smaller companies having search engine optimization and social media play into that.
Exactly, Hannah.
It's interesting that you can't talk anymore about grassroots marketing, traditional grassroots marketing, without talking about the interactive component to it. I think it's wonderful that there's a blurring of the lines now of how traditional and interactive media work together, because while the question was about, good old-fashioned grassroots, you immediately went to social networking, which I think is fabulous.
That is the grassroots that I know.
There you go. But yeah, it is the new grassroots. Grassroots used to be yard signs and posters and flyers and word of mouth, and we did a lot of grassroots stuff when we were launching Nashville.citysearch.com in 1997, because there was no such thing as online marketing. I mean, I remember the first time I saw a one sheet on a banner ad and I couldn't understand it. I was like, click on it. I couldn't understand it. My CEO told me I was the one who had to understand banner advertising. It took me hours to read this one page. So, but we used a lot of grassroots, event sponsorships and things that built awareness that eventually drove traffic and to our site. And there was no search engine marketing then. It was craziness.
But let me also make sure that we are careful about this, because it depends upon the group that you're after. Because if in fact there's some people who want to have some contact with the product or the company, the warm fuzzies. I mean, you can't always get that through the social marketing part. So I mean, you got to be careful to delineate who your customers are, what makes them happy, and how do they get to that information to make decisions.
No, I agree. A handshake will always move the needle faster than a blog or anything like that. So.
I couldn't agree more. Not everybody is looking online and typing in websites, and I know that a huge amount of people are online, but just the other day I was with a major organization that was in a certain industry, and they said if we wanted to get a message out, only 35% could at any given time get online to even read their email. So you sometimes just have to stand up and talk.
Right.
Do we have a question from the audience?
We have gotten one question, and the question is, what is the best way to reach the largest number of people?
That's sort of back to Peter saying, it kind of depends on what that number of people are. Are you trying to reach the Teamsters, or are you trying to reach AARP and older people? You're trying to reach school-age kids, but maybe talk about segmenting. Would one of you like to talk about how you go about segmenting and identifying the audience first before you identify the vehicle?
Well, I'll just kind of jump out there. In interactive, and of course, across the different age categories now, it's basically even as far as internet penetration across age categories. So even 50 and up, 50 and up has been the fastest growing population on the web for years now. But there are two main activities online where you can reach the most people, and that is search engine marketing and email. Email is still the number one activity on the web. And that's why I said early on that the development of a database of current and potential clients is the most important thing that a company can do. Because when all else fails, you can reach your people through email. Now, if you're talking about a different type of product, broadcast media is a completely a way to reach a ton of people.
And that's a difficult question to ask, because I'm not comfortable trying to decide what is it that you're trying to tell people, what information you're trying to give them, who are you trying to reach. If it's the largest number of senior citizens, that might be one avenue to take. There's also broadcast. That's a very difficult question to answer without having a little bit more information too.
And I think that's where it comes back to research. You really have to look at what you want to say, who you want to say it to, and when you want to say it. Well, we're going to wrap up. We just have a few more minutes. First of all, thank you all very, very much. I just want to say, if I get another email, I think I'll explode. So I think we do need to be careful with the way we do these emails. But I want to thank you all. Anybody got a burning comment you want to make just in a wrap-up way? Please jump in if you do.
Well, good customer service all the time.
Yeah, and I'll see you on Facebook.
and don't be scared of social media. Whatever level you're at, if you're just an observer, if you're commenting, or if you're actually out there building content, just jump in and at least get involved and know what kind of environment it is.
Thank you all very much. I think if you want to use this, you can go to the Chamber website and you can view this again or listen to a podcast. And we thank you very much for being with us today.
The Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce wishes to thank all participants and Stage Post Studios, from which this program originated.